Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about what's going on with the New Orleans Saints, their draft, free agency. We'll get into the New Orleans Pelicans as well, and of course, always your phone calls are welcome on the program. Tonight, Mike Detillier joins us once again, NFL and draft analyst extraordinaire. Mike, welcome back to the show.
A pleasure, Eric. Thank
Always
you.
Great to have you, my friend. Really look forward to it. And I got to be honest with you, the people that watch the show look forward to it as well. Always get a lot of great feedback anytime you join us. So thank you again for your time.
So that means I get a raise.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's no doubt about it. We're gonna bring you up. We're gonna move you up the pace.
I got you.
No doubt
I got
about
you.
it. I think a lot of people are anxious to be able to hear what you have to say about the draft that just passed, and of course you've got that great draft report that you do. Honestly, if you're doing what I do for a living, that is a great tool to be able to really find out what's going on, because it's very difficult to know all college players, to know the inside into all the college players. You do a great job of really breaking it down for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Every year it's like planning for a wedding. You have the wedding, and then all of a sudden you're planning for the next wedding.
Right.
So you jump in it. But I appreciate that. And what I try to do each year is, if you've never seen that player, to write a synopsis on them that what I write, you could picture that particular player. So I try to do that each and every year.
Well, it does tell a story, Mike. It really does.
It tells a story, and it gives you my opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you who the Saints think they should pick, or the Browns or the Rams or anyone else. I'm telling you my opinion of a player and kind of where he would fit on particular teams. So we've done pretty good with that format.
No, let's start off with this draft here. And the only criticism I have of the draft is the fact that maybe some medical red flags on these guys, some maybe character red flags. You have researched these guys extensively. Talk a little bit about this year's draft.
Well, I think you want a pristine player, but where is that guy? I mean, everybody's got some issue one way or another. And in today's world, you find out real quickly about it. With Lattimore, it's the hamstring issues. He was a dominant player at Ohio State when he was on the field. And last year, he didn't have the hamstring issues. Mm-hmm. Was it a dietary situation? Again, the stretching, everything else. He went through acupuncture to try to help himself out in that area. And what surprised me was he didn't have a lot of playing time. And very early teams said, I ain't throwing the football in his direction. He was a playmaker for Ohio State. They were throwing the ball more toward Connolly. Mm-hmm. They weren't picking on him. You always concerned about a guy with that type speed, hamstring issues. He's got to have a concerted effort to try to fix that. So does the team from a training standpoint. And we've seen this football team have a lot of injuries, Eric, over the last few years. So that part is a little bit of a concern for me. As a talent, he's a top 5 or 6 pick. You got him at 11. Yes. You had to take him at that point in time. Again, other players like Alex Anzalone, you understood. Injuries. When he was healthy, he reminded me a lot of the Cowboys linebacker Sean Lee. Now, again, Sean's a terrific player if he can be on the field.
Right.
And he's had a lot of injuries also. The character issues certainly with Muhammad, off the field stuff. You're picking in the 6th round. You got a guy he's got the dirty word right next to his, potential.
Right.
Which means you haven't done it. You kind of flashed it at times with the Hurricanes, but you really haven't pieced it together as a pass rusher. I like the Henderson pick. I think he can help you as a situational pass rusher in a lot of different ways. Marcus Williams is a ball hawk. I think the most immediate impact guy is Alvin Kamara. He fits a need on this football team that you have heard it, I've heard it. When they're going to find somebody to take the place of a Reggie Bush or Darren Sproles, he's it. Great speed, can put him in a slot, catch the football real well coming out of the backfield. And thank Butch Jones. He didn't put a lot of mileage on his car.
Sure.
I mean, he's got a lot of thread as a running back is concerned. So overall, you got quality, and Ramczyk also, he was my number 1 rated tackle. I thought he'd be the 20th pick in the draft. You got him at 32. So you got value here early on with players. They fill specific needs. I think when you look at a draft is how quickly these guys can help you. I did a roundtable on ESPN with Bill Polian, and he says, the draft is all about filling needs, and the offseason is all about what ifs. What if my starting center gets hurt? Do I have a replacement that can come in and play 6 or 8 games? What happens if my quarterback gets dinged up or my free safety? It's all about what ifs. Did you do enough? I think for a coach, you never do enough.
Right.
You never have enough football players here. Does it get you to the point here where you're better defensively? And we've talked about this so many times. Pressure and sacks, I'm a big believer in, but it doesn't tell you the complete story of a defense. It's all about turnovers, and it's all about points allowed. And when you look at this football team, how quickly Lattimore and Williams can help you in the turnover ratio. The last 3 years, you've got 12 interceptions, 9. That's horrible for this league. And then when you look at points scored, you've scored over 400 points the last 3 years. Your offense isn't the issue. Your issue is what you have on defense, that you've given up 424, 476, 454. Man, when you've given up that much points, you've got to win the turnover ratio. And Eric, did this draft and offseason do enough to get this team to a place where now you feel more comfortable? I think you're still in that 7-9, 8-8 area right now. I mean, come on. You can't say today this football team, maybe on paper, has the potential to do a 9-7 team. You look at the early part of that schedule, they got to get it together very quickly. And this team has shown under Peyton, when they've been a slow starting team, it's not been a good part. They finish under 500. When they've started fast, they've had a good record and a winning record. Look at that early part of the schedule.
Let's go back to Lattimore for a moment because, again, from what I understand, what he said to the New Orleans media, he had surgery on the hamstrings.
Right.
Since he had surgery, he says he hasn't had a problem. On the flip side, you had Sean Payton in his opening press conference talking about Lattimore, saying they're going to have to watch the diet, the stretching. Which is it, Mike? Is it a little bit of both, or do you have confidence that now he's gotten over the hamstring problems that plagued him through high school and his first part of his career at Ohio State? Is he a guy that you can count on for 16 games a year?
Well, in doing PR work for Thibodeau Regional Medical Center, which I do, I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of people involved in that department, and they tell me a lot of it certainly has to do with diet. A lot of 17, 18, 19-year-old young men, they're not eating right, not hydrated right. And then all of a sudden, if you got an early practice, they're not stretched right, and all of a sudden, somebody tightly wound, like Lattimore, can get that pull very, very quickly. So I think it's a little bit of both at this particular stage. So remains to be seen on how I think the medical staff of this team can handle that, and also Lattimore. He's got to be concerned about this has been an issue. I've got to take better care of my body.
How about Ramczyk and the hip? Arthroscopic surgery. He thinks he's going to be back ready to go. What have you heard? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, everything I've heard is he's ready to go. He was the best run-blocking tackle in college football last year on a team that specializes in running the ball. But what jumped out at me is how well he could pass protect. When we were doing pregame for the LSU network on LSU, Wisconsin, the buzz out of Wisconsin was the best lineman we got here is Ramczyk. He hadn't played a down. I was like, then you do the research and see 2 technical colleges, comes in, takes over the left tackle position with a right-handed quarterback, blindside guy. What was interesting in going back and watch the tape, Arden Key, first series, he's up against Ramczyk. After that, flipped him on the other side. As advertised. Right. And so I think the hip injury, he'll come back from that real well. He is eventually going to be a starter on the right side. You understand with the age of Zach Strief. And 2 is, here you probably had a guy that was ranked on your board 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st like myself, and you get him at 32. That's difficult to pass on, especially when the guy I think you really wanted went at 31 in Reuben Foster.
Let's talk about that because there were 2 picks that the Saints, 2 players the Saints wanted. They didn't get a chance to be able to pick them. Let's take Foster first. Foster automatically in the NFL substance abuse program will be tested continually through the season. And from what we understand from out of San Francisco, the shoulder problem is still lingering. They're going to give him a red shirt this year. What were your thoughts on him as the clock was coming up? The Saints thought they had him before they had to turn to Ramczyk.
Well, we were sitting there, and I get a text from an agent friend of mine that says, Saints on the phone with Reuben Foster. Now, this is 2 picks before. Okay. So at that point, he's still there, so you understand. He's a difference maker on the football field. Does he feel a specific need for you today? Because A.J. Klein, that's his spot at middle linebacker. But you can move him over to the strong side. Here I get a top 10 guy fall to at 32 because of an injury. And also, too, he's a hothead. He has shown that at times at Alabama. My thing about it is, next time he takes a physical, he's going to take it first. He's not going to be way in the back of the line for it. But he's a difference maker out on the field. And if you had to give him the red shirt to get his shoulder straight, as a coach, you're not real pleased about it because you know what you got hanging on the line here. Yes. But down the road, you got a tremendous football player. I would have had no problem with them picking him at 32. Right. And I don't think anybody else would have at that particular point in time. Hopefully he can come back and play. Shaq Lawson had a similar surgery. He came back in October, and he was a good football player for the Bills last year.
What about Patrick Mahomes and the possibility of the Saints grabbing him before Kansas City swooped in and got him? Do you think that was realistic? And then how does that play in the quarterback room if they go out and get a young player with Drew Brees in the last year of his deal?
Foul ball. Never happened. Okay? So, it's great for us to talk about. But it's a foul ball. He's not on the roster.
What did you think about him as a player?
I liked him. I knew he was a developmental guy. He's an ultimate gunslinger, but he has the best arm talent I've seen since Jamarcus Russell. Now, listen, don't take it from a standpoint of Jamarcus. His problem was he didn't put any effort in his game. But when you could watch him throw a ball, you were amazed at that arm strength, his ability to get the ball in tight spots. Pat had that same sort of element, very mobile. But you knew he wasn't ready for prime time. And he's got the one trait I love and I hate in a quarterback. He thinks he can put a football anywhere on the field. And sometimes he can. And sometimes it gets picked off. So it would have been interesting. Lattimore not there. And they come to 11. Let's say Buffalo picks Lattimore at that point in time. And he's there at 11. I think the Saints would have gotten a lot of phone calls. Hey, deal back. This is what you can get for us. It'd have been interesting how it was played out because you're picking a guy who's not going to help you at all in 2017. At all. But it would tell you this would have been the last year of Drew Brees. Had Mahomes been the pick, Drew's not coming back in 2018.
Right. Interesting. Jonathan Allen was also on the board at 11. What were your thoughts there between Lattimore and Allen?
Well, Lattimore and Allen were almost kind of dead ranked on that particular part. And again, I go back to that part. How many guys come in and help right away at both positions? That's got to be in the back of your mind. You can say, well, Joey Bosa did it a year ago. Well, tell me somebody other than Joey Bosa. And you got a long thought. At cornerback, Marcus Peters 2 years ago stepped in. He was terrific. Last year, you saw the kid from Florida State come in at Jacksonville, and he struggled at times, but late in the year, he was really playing good football. You had to weigh that, how quickly he can help you. I like Jonathan, and I think he'll be a good player in that scheme in Washington. Is he a dominant guy?
Is he?
I think he's a good player. I don't think he's ever going to be a dominant pass rusher. I think he'll always be a good player across the board, and he's a physical guy that fits into that 3-4 scheme the Redskins do really well. Here, they would have wanted him to get the sacks coming off the edge.
Yes.
Where I think he's more effective is inside, where he's going up against a guard where he can out-athletic him. And I think the world of Jonathan Allen. But in that spot, I think the Saints made the right pick with Lattimore.
Saints were looking for a playmaker in round 2 when they went and got Marcus Williams. You mentioned a little bit earlier. How quickly can he acclimate himself to the NFL game coming from Utah?
Well, a lot of people haven't watched him play because he was at Utah, unless you up at 10, 11, 12 o'clock on Saturday nights, because that's when they play. One thing about him from every coach that I've talked to at Utah is how smart he is. He knows where he's got to be on every play, and he knows where you have to be on every play. And he's a chirper. He talks. He gets the communication going.
Okay.
So that part I really liked in him, and also interceptions. His ability to come up with big plays in the secondary. This football team has not had it. And again, just look at those numbers, 12-9-9 interception-wise, the last 3 years. That's not real impressive. That's where a Lattimore and a Williams can come in and help you right away. How quickly both of them can assimilate to the NFL is going to be the key here. And that's where the biggest need going into this season is still there today. You got to play defensive end by committee on the other side of Cam Jordan. It's still there. You do not have a guy that's a difference maker opposite Cameron Jordan.
What happens at the safety position now when you bring Williams in?
You play a lot of 3 safeties like you've done, last year.
You move Von Bell a little bit closer to the...
Yeah, I think he's more of a slot guy. I think he'll play into that area. Let Marcus play deep center field, which he's been used to.
Vaccaro close to the line?
Vaccaro closer to the line of scrimmage. Also, too, this draft class is sort of the signal. I'll never forget, Greg Williams and I did a talk 2010, and he made the comment to me before he made the talk, was that it will not be long, all this specialization of running backs, receivers, it's going to fall into the defensive secondary too. He said, you look at it today, nickel backs, 70% of the time, 3 safeties. Because he says, you know what, eventually all those wide receivers and tight ends today look like big receivers, they're going to play and you're going to have to measure up. So I got a 245-pound linebacker. He's got a cover that 235, 240-pound tight end who could race like a receiver downfield. A few of them can. Right. Most can't. So I've got to be able to move my chess pieces around and play a guy that can actually cover him. And so I think that plays into what you're going to see in the new NFL. And we saw it last year with the Saints. We've seen it with Arizona. We saw New England last year. They were 3 cornerbacks 74% of the time, Eric. Now, again, the Saints couldn't do it because they didn't have enough cornerbacks. But you've seen the nickel and also what Sean refers to as the big nickel being used more and more. It is a space league, and you better be able to match up downfield some kind of way at cornerback and safety. You just can't have 2 anymore. You better have 3 and 4. And then if you have an injury, you better have a 4th and a 5th.
Yes. Compare and contrast Alvin Kamara to some other guys that played that Joker role in terms of style. Sproles, Bush, Pierre Thomas. Who does he remind you more of?
I think he's more like Reggie than any of them.
Okay.
In that he is an edge runner. He's underrated on how well he can run between the tackles, which I think it was solid. His receiving skills are really good, and you can match him up in that Joker position. Now, all of a sudden now, you've got to match up secondary-wise. Yeah. He's going to give you a nightmare scenario. Also, too, there's no guarantee of that run. It's an attrition game. I'd rather have too many than not enough. You've got a 32-year-old Adrian Peterson who's got more carries under his belt today than O.J. Simpson, Larry Zonka, Earl Campbell, Jimmy Taylor, Paul Hornung, Terrell Davis did when they retired. Now, he's in great shape today. He hasn't been hit yet.
Right.
You hope that he can come in and help your football team out. No guarantee of that.
What do you think will happen with him?
I think that they would like to use him because he's always, to me, been a volume runner. Those first 7 or 8 carries aren't particularly great. You maybe have 8 carries, 39 yards. The 9th carry, towel, he's 70 yards downfield. Does he get that opportunity here? So here's my deal. Now, we hear it every year about we'll show more patience in the running game. I will believe it when I see it because now you've got the setup. A young offensive line, big up front. You've got your running backs. Protect your 38-year-old quarterback. He doesn't need to be throwing the football 45 times a game.
Yes.
Instead of running the ball, we've seen games, 13 carries, 16 carries. Come on, you've got to get that in the 20s. We've talked about when it hits 30 or more, 42 and 4. People say, oh, that's all late in the game. Well, you know, Archie Manning and I were talking about this. He was like, if you can't run the football early in the game, what makes you think if you've got a 7-point lead that you can run it late in the game?
Yes.
And last year, you look at New Orleans, double-digit games, 7 points or less. So what games are you closing out? And you think all of a sudden your defense is going to be a top 10 defense? Come on. You've got to change up a little bit here. And you've got to show a little bit more patience with the running game early in the contest. Play a little keep away and keep your defense off the field. This defense isn't all of a sudden going to transform themselves into a top 10 or 12 defense. That might be the case down the road.
Yes.
But look at Atlanta. There's a great example. Played a lot of young kids. They had a lot of moving parts early in the season. They weren't great on defense, but what could they do, Eric? Run the ball. And Matt Ryan didn't turn it over. And so, yeah, they got 12, 14 interceptions, but when you only throw 7 and you got a running game like what Atlanta had, you could establish that running game early, build yourself up a pretty good lead. A lot of times teams, 3rd and 3, they throwing the ball. They're not running it to protect the lead. You can't live in 2010 anymore.
Right.
You got to live in 2017. I think the big part offensively this year will be is how much patience will Sean Payton have with his offense to run the ball and establish that run earlier in the game, play a little keep away, keep my defense watching.
Can Ingram and Adrian Peterson coexist in the same backfield?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, it's never been, you go back to 2006, Deuce had to adjust with Reggie.
Sure.
And so you've got to adjust also. And I think in some games, who got the hot hand? It's almost like if you're playing cards.
Yeah.
Who's hot that night? And so I think you can tell pretty early if the running backs kind of got a little bit of a hot hand, and then you play them. My thing with Kamara, I think early on, I don't know how many touches he'll have as a runner. As a receiver, I think you'll see quite a bit of touches also in the return game. But as the season goes along, and I'm playing different teams, especially indoors, I take advantage of his speed, his ability to quick pitch, throw a quick pass, let him use his foot speed out in the open field. Adrian Peterson's not been known as a receiver. And the other thing Drew always talks about, protection. He won't say it, but I will. Adrian has struggled in that department in the National Football League as a pass blocker.
Right. And Ingram is very, very good at it.
Ingram's very good at it.
Right, no doubt. You mentioned Atlanta. Saints were on the clock. They said they wanted Duke Riley. Atlanta grabs Duke Riley in front of them. They got Debo Jones. What's the thinking there?
Man, all I know is they got more Louisiana players on that team in 1 year than the Saints have in the last 5.
Amen to that.
But, you know, one of the things they look at, too, is competition. And, man, listen, what Atlanta's doing is scary. You talk, that's just not my opinion. That's opinions all across the league. Look what they have done to build that defense up. And then this year, you got Tack McKinley, and you got Duke Riley coming in. So now you can match up with Duke out on the edge, Debo in the middle, and tell McKinley, hey, you'll never get chipped again. Not with Vic Beasley on the other side.
Sure.
So now It's a different scenario, and they are building a team. Everybody's got a plan until it doesn't work.
Sure.
They're the closest team I've seen to build a defense, and I'm talking about the Falcons, to what Seattle had 5 years ago. You look at that team, it's real close.
Yes.
I mean, it's really close to what they have done. Certainly having their defensive coordinator there helped, but boy, their front office has done a phenomenal job.
Yes.
I give Dimitroff a lot of credit for piecing that together, and he made the most important decision in free agency a year ago, Alex Mack. And you know, I'm a center guy.
Oh, yeah.
I believe in it. I think that position, you gotta have stability. And it's, anybody can do it. He practiced it in practice. Man, practice, you know, Steve Cord always says this about practice. Just think about when you're doing it in practice today, because it's pajamas and slippers.
Yes.
One day of hitting, you got guys coming at you in different angles. You're the communicator. You're trying to talk to the other 4 offensive linemen. You're trying to make the calls. You're making sure everything is straight, watching if the blitz is not up the middle. And then you forget the most important thing. You got to make the snap right to the quarterback. That's not as easily said as written that, Calamonte, he practiced it. Well, practice, you got to do it in a game.
Yes.
That's why Max Unger is one of the best in the business. And we'll still wait and see on if he'll be there game 1.
What do you think at this point? See, obviously, when Ian Rappaport made the report, said he wouldn't be back until maybe mid-season, would go on the PUP list. Saints fans went into a frenzy. Quickly, I believe that the organization went through Pro Football Talk and kind of quelled that, saying he'll be back by the 3rd week of preseason. Of course, Peyton said the same thing this week. But again, you've got to ask the question, you know, why let this heal on its own? Why are we dealing with this in May? Why the screw now? Why not take care of this after the season for a guy that's dealing with an injury that he had when he was in Seattle and then he missed week 14 last year?
Same question I ask. Again, look at the history over the last couple of years with injuries on this football team, and the same situation you could talk about the Pelicans.
Same exact situation.
And so you're looking at that's got to be cleared up. Somebody's got to get involved and say, you know what, sometimes injuries are luck, and sometimes it's you've got to do a better job or have people that can do a better job making sure those injuries get taken care of.
Definitely agree with that, Mike. I've said it all along. There's got to be a hard look at the medical staff, the training staff for both those organizations. Too many misdiagnoses, too many, again, letting it heal, and then players coming in, either they've got an injury or they can't rehab from an injury. They leave these organizations on the way out. They're taking shots at the medical staff, or they want second or third opinions before they allow anyone to be able to touch them.
Sports hernias. This team leads the league in that particular deal.
Right.
So, in essence, if I'm Coach Payton and I know everything's on the line, I've got to say, hey, wait a minute now. I've got to have these guys ready. And again, sometimes injuries you can't do anything about, and other times you wonder a little bit. The sports hernia situation, and I've talked to a lot, all of it has to do with the training methods. All of it. Sometimes not training with the right trainer. Sometimes not doing the right things in training to get yourself right. So some of that certainly belongs on the player's back, but also to the team has to get involved and say, we've got way too many injuries to just say that this is bad luck.
Right.
What happened with Sheldon Rankins in practice, that's bad luck. You couldn't prevent that sort of thing. But all these sports hernia surgeries, now the situation with the foot with Max Unger would raise the flag pretty high with me.
Yeah, I would say so, especially now when you're looking at so many players that are coming in that have had past problems with injury. I mean, Anzalone says he's 100% healthy, said that he went to the Senior Bowl, he proved to the scouts he can play. Guy couldn't stay healthy in the SEC. How's he going to stay healthy in the NFL? What are your thoughts there?
I think when you have a track history of numerous injuries, that track sort of stays with you. I think when you do the track background of that, it sort of stays with you along the way. Now, some guys mature physically a little bit later in life.
Sure, absolutely.
So would that happen with Anzalone? Who knows? One injury like with Lattimore with the hamstring, that's one issue. Alex's multiple injuries.
Right, shoulder separation. Broken arm. So you've got this little bit of a history in 3 years at Florida. He didn't play his senior year. He came out early. So again,
That is troubling anytime you see those sort of issues. I'm more concerned about medical issues than off the field issues.
So am I, honestly, because at this point, when you talk about Muhammad from Miami, I mean, he's a crapshoot at best. If you get something out of a 6th-round pick, even though they kind of maybe, would have been a little bit high for him there, it is what it is at that point. How about Trey Henderson? A lot of people are hanging their hat on him. Very big motor, a guy that can help you on special teams. Is he a guy that can come in the NFL and make a difference in your mind, or is he going to be a project-type player that will have to build to that?
I think he's a situational player early on, as a rookie, and help you on special teams. Is he going to solve your issues? No, he's not. He's not going to be the issue. He's not going to solve that problem in 2017. Right. He reminds me a lot of a guy that I saw come out of University of Cincinnati, and he's had a pretty good career with the Texans and Eagles. Connor Barwin.
Okay.
Very similar. Built along the same lines, same type of strength, hot motor guy, can get up the field, can rush the quarterback well, can help you on special teams, and he's a team player. But I think what you got to look at is, can the other defensive end, or by committee, that's what it's going to be now, opposite Cam Jordan, get the same amount of sacks in total? Can Hendrickson and Kakaha and Alex Okafor total up to the same amount of sacks Cam Jordan can get? Now, last year he got 7.5. He's got 9, 10 in that range in the last few years. Can those three guys total up together?
Yes.
9 or 10? Because I do know one thing on this football team, and I think it's going to be the strength, is in the middle. When you talk about Rankins and Tyler, who's a good, solid player in the middle, Nick Fairley, you're going to get that pass rush. I think the guy that's going to emerge this year is David Onyemata. He's got a lot of talent. He's learned the game a little bit. And you've got 4 really good players right in the middle that you can constantly interchange. And if A.J. Klein is the player that I believe he is, it solidifies the middle of your football team. The big question mark is, man, don't give me this stuff about hits, because that means nothing. If you can't get turnovers off the hits, all that is a stat on a piece of paper.
Yes.
That's all that is. It's not helping you get off the field. It's not helping you turn the ball over. You might say, well, it's a stat. Well, hey, it's a useless stat. If it doesn't help you stop a team where you've given up over 400 points the last 3 years and you haven't been able to get double-digit turnovers, interception-wise, the last 2 years.
Yes.
Eric, none of that all kind of computes at this particular point, and you see the NFC South getting tougher. Look the weapons you got to go up against each week. What Tampa has done, what Atlanta's got, what Carolina's done. You got to get out of the NFC South before you can get into the playoffs.
Amen to that. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll talk to Mike Detillier a little bit about the linebacker position. A lot of bodies there. What does he think? We'll get into also the undrafted free agents, who he think may make an impact on this team. We're going to get into some Pelicans as well, and your phone calls. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Mike Detillier is our guest. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Great guest tonight, Mike Detillier, breaking down the Saints. We're also going to talk some Pelicans before we head to the phone lines at about 45 minutes after the hour. Undrafted free agents. Anybody stick out to you? I mean, the obvious one is Traven Durrell.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at Coleman being the fourth receiver. I mean, I would think that he has got a real chance to be that number 4 guy on this team if he can come back from his injuries. Obviously, you're very close with Coach O. What are you hearing about Durrell, the injuries, and do you think he's got a legit shot?
You look at him as a sophomore. He looked like he was a potential superstar player. Then he had the hamstring issue, and he's never quite had that same hitch in the giddy up that he could pull away from people. Can he get that back? Now, I've always thought he's a chalk guy. He likes to run the chalk. At LSU, you can't say they ran a lot of inside stuff, so we'll see on that. But I liked him a lot as a football player, and certainly he was hurt by the lack of quarterback play at LSU, no question about that. But can he get over that injury, which he didn't quite seem to be the same player as a senior? Arthur Millette is an interesting football player.
From Bonneville, right?
Right, from Bonneville. Went to Memphis, was a JUCO guy, goes to Memphis. As an inside slot guy, tough player, long arm, smart, and interesting. Listen to what Peyton said about him. He's the one who brought up about, man, he's picked it up real well. He's smart. He understands our system. Already talking about a position for him as a slot corner. So that, to me, I always listen to how he talks about a player.
Sure.
And I think that tells you that he likes what Millette brings to the table. The other one is Cameron Tom. 4-year start at Southern Miss. Baton Rouge kid. Smart. Real sharp kid. Now, I don't want him playing for me this year, but down the road, because he physically needs to get stronger. He understands the pass blocking part of the game. He got a little bit stronger in the run part, but he's got some physical skills and intelligence to play that spot, and he's played it 4 years as a starter. That says a lot about him. Now, again, as a rookie, you probably either got him on a developmental squad or that sort of thing, but I think he's got a real shot somewhere down the road.
Mike, they've thrown a lot of bodies at the linebacker position. When you look at guys that are returning, guys they brought in, how much better do you think that position is? How's that going to shake out?
I think it all is going to be on how good A.J. Klein really is. And I think a lot of him as a player. I think from an impact standpoint on defense in the offseason, from a front seven, I mean, Okafor, you know what he's going to bring to the table if he's healthy.
If he's healthy, yes.
But Klein's a guy that can solidify a spot that's been a revolving door for 5 years. And when I watched him play, he took over for Kuechly. There wasn't a lot of drop-off in play. And you're talking about the best middle linebacker in that game today. And the thing about it is he can play all 3 downs. So I think he's your guy in the middle. I think Teo is probably going to end up being his backup. I think the key is Dannell Ellerbe. We say it every year.
Yeah.
He's the best outside linebacker you have on his team. It's how many games will he play? He can play all 3 downs. He's good as a rush guy coming off the edge. He can cover real well. Can he stay healthy at this point? That's the big question mark. And certainly Craig Robertson, who I thought was a steal for them, getting him. He becomes your starter on the strong side. You've got 3 veterans now that you can play. And I think you put Anzalone on the weak side. I think that's his best position there. And you know one thing with Ellerbe, Alex is going to get to play somewhere during the season. He's not going to last 16 games. But I think the key here is that now you've got some veteran depth, and also you got Nate Stuper, Marty coming back, special teams guy that helps you also on the field. But I think the key here, Klein in the middle. How many games Dannell Ellerbe can start on the weak side?
Have you given up on Stephon Anthony?
I think this team has, but they're not going to tell you.
Right.
I think, the thing with Stephon is, and knowing him a little, he's got the part of playing the rundown. It's the other part of the game. He had told me last year, man, I never had a player, a tight end, get on top of me that quickly. Well, no, this is the NFL. You got to understand that. And at times you watched him. When he was supposed to blitz, he would drop in coverage. When he was supposed to drop in coverage, he was blitzing. It's the middle part of the game with him. That's all up to him. He's got to put forth effort in there. There have been a lot of people that told me maybe this team kind of rolled him around a little bit to see if they could deal him off. No takers. So then all of a sudden now he's in the mix.
Yes.
Come on. He wasn't in the mix for 16 games and you were injury plagued at linebacker. Now all of a sudden he's in the mix.
Can Mike Nolan make a difference there?
We'll see. But it's more, can Stephon make the difference? He's got to put more effort in the mental part of this game, because physically, he's got it. He's got all the skills in the world. Can he pick up the nuances of playing that position and understanding not what to do some of the time, every play?
Mike, I want to ask you this once again. I'd like you to be definitive with me. Free agency is over. The draft is over. We've seen the other NFC South teams get better. How much better can this team be this year, in your opinion?
I think they're a notch better, but they're not
playoff team?
No. At this stage, I'm going to tell you no. I think they're a team. I said, listen, I think at best they are 9-17. But right now, if you're asking me to give you a record, I would go 8-8. I think in a division where everything is going to be, it's not going to be the runaway like it was a year ago with the Falcons. I think the Falcons come back down to earth a little bit. Part of that is with Atlanta, I think that they may be a better team, and defensively, they may be a really good team. Really? But it's jumping the mental ditch of losing that Super Bowl in the fourth quarter. How quickly they can get out of that, because they're the best team in the division. They're the best team in the NFC South, and I think they're the best team in the NFC. When you look at it as a whole, they're the best team in the NFC, top to bottom. But that mental part is tough, and I think the Panthers are right back in it. Tampa Bay is a good young football team. It wouldn't surprise me that the winners, 10-6, 9-7, 8-8, 8-8. Right. I think you see that kind of a roll between the four teams, the three teams opposite the Saints. Interesting, Vegas. Early on, they had them 8, and then they moved it to 8.5. They making you make the call. Yeah. They're making you make that call on how you think that's going to be.
Right. Right. Let's shift gears to the Pelicans. Anthony Davis named first team All-NBA today. Second time he's been named that. Second time a player with the New Orleans organization. Chris Paul and him have both been named to the NBA All-NBA team, first team. Alvin Gentry, Dell Demps brought back. Frustrating for a lot of Pelican fans. They said it was about stability. And as I said on the radio show, you got the most unstable player in the NBA in DeMarcus Cousins. And you're worried about stability? If you were to make a move, this was the time to make a move, not next year if this doesn't work out, with DeMarcus Cousins as a free agent and then Anthony Davis with 2 years left on his deal. Mike, you cover the Pelicans as well as the Saints. What are your thoughts?
Where's accountability?
None.
Where's the accountability on this team that Dell Demps has constantly dealt around? Deal a Dell. Okay, I think they made a good deal for Boogie.
I agree.
I think that was a tremendous deal. But what are the other things? These guys that he's brought in over the last 2.5 years, they scattered all across the league. And so everything is on the back of Anthony Davis. And listen, I think he's done one heck of a job for a young man carrying a lot of water for a franchise.
Yes, agreed.
But, again, I don't know where we've lost the work ethic of pushing to be the very best.
Right.
When did we lose that? Somewhere. You can say, I'll keep stability. Well, keeping stability, are you happy? What are you telling the fans? We're happy being a below 500 football.
Right, below 500
basketball team. Right. 3 years in a row you've been a below 500 football team.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense. And the general managers it's unprecedented to have 7 years in one organization and to be a below 500 general manager and to still have the opportunity to continue for at least one more season. I think it was a horrible move on the part of the Pelicans brass.
It told the fans, if you want to wave the flag, great. Stability, if that's what you want to wave, fine. I'm not going to disagree with you if you think stability. But where's my thing of pushing it to be the very best? Where did we lose that in our society, to be the very best or to get the very best that will fit what you do? Eric, we've lost that somewhere along the line.
I definitely agree. 866-3200. You have a question or comment from Mike Detillier, our guest. Mike, LSU finishing up spring. They're going to be doing a dual camp with Tulane coming up very, very soon. What are you hearing about this LSU Tiger team?
They'll go as far as Danny Etling can take them.
Are you concerned about the back injury?
No, not necessarily. I think I hate to say this because a minor back injury is something somebody else got, not what I have. Because you understand the situation. But, I know Coach O blew after the spring game. Mm-hmm. Come on, reality. He's the best you got right now. You got to go with Etling. Mm-hmm. He can talk about Joe Montana. He ain't got him on this squad. Right. So you got to go with Etling, and he's the best you have at this point. And he's a middle-of-the-road quarterback, and at times he'll be a little bit better and a little bit worse. But he's got a great running back in Darius Geis. And I mean a guy that legitimately, depending on what happens in November, could vie for that Heisman Trophy.
I would agree.
Depending on what happens in those big games, his offensive line, I think he feels real good about. A lot of young kids on defense. And don't give me next man up, because Jamal Adams and Tre'Davious White, man, and Duke Riley and Kendall Beckwith, those guys, that's not easy to say, I'm going to replace them with somebody just as good. Yes. Now, I think 2 years from now, that defense with all those young guys, they are going to be tough. But if I'm playing LSU early, I'm throwing a ball. I'm going after Dante. I'm going after Tolliver. I'm going to see how good they are. I want to see their safeties. Can Delpit come in as a true freshman and make a difference? John Battle, I think he's a good football player at that free safety spot. I think the concern for me will be how far Danny Etling can take you in big games. Alabama on the road, Florida on the road, and on defense in the secondary.
Well, you got to like what Bebe's doing right now in terms of recruiting, though. That 2018 class is already one of the top classes in the nation, just based off what he's doing right now. Gotten some good transfers to come in. Obviously, some young kids that are coming out of high school.
Eric, that's the story. To me, explain to me, if I'm Moss and I'm Giles, and I'm playing at North Carolina State and I'm playing at Texas Tech, I'm going to LSU, and y'all going to throw me the ball? Right. Now, again, I know what Bebe's card is. Hey, look, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham came out of here. Right. Look what they've done in the National Football League.
And a new offensive coordinator with a new offensive system, right?
But again, 6 months ago, how many people knew who Matt Canada was?
Not many.
So, man, he's doing this unbelievably to get a guy, and Giles from Texas Tech, who could win anywhere else in the country. Anywhere. He could have named it. And Moss was another guy that had a lot of schools after him. I understand the defensive tackle, but Bates put 11 guys as first-round pick defensive linemen that he's recruited or developed. I mean, I understand that calling card, and you got Pete Jenkins on that staff too. But to get the receiver and the tight end is something. I think what's going to make him or break him at LSU from being in that 8, 9, 10 or going over, how well they can develop Miles Brennan, Lowell Narcisse, because next year, one of those two guys is going to be your starter. Yes. I don't know that the other one would leave in 2018, but if the other guy's established himself come 2019, he's out. Right. Can you have that constant flow of quarterbacks into LSU? That's the one area no school in the SEC has been able to do. Right. They haven't been able to funnel those guys
and
in.
They haven't been able to develop them either. And that's part of the deal. And that's what you're hoping you're going to get in Matt Canada, is a guy that can develop quarterbacks going forward. And he's got a pretty decent track record.
Well, with Jacoby Brissett and Nathan Peterman, he's done a pretty good job over the last 4 years in developing quarterbacks that he can take that and go out and grab a guy. Now, when you're going to watch Miles Brennan play and watch Lowell play, they're two totally different players.
Yes, no doubt.
Lowell's from my part of the country, so I knew what he was. And listen, at St. James, he had the boat from the pocket. He didn't get a lot of protection, but he was a terrific runner. He's got a real strong arm.
How's the knee?
The knee's coming along real well, and he's slimmer now. And listen, when you have that type of injury, you kind of get a little heavy. And listen, he's 17, 18 years old. You can lose 15, 20 pounds real quick. Now, when you get to be our age, 20 pounds, man, it takes you a long time. But he's a different style quarterback. Miles is a lot like, I've compared him to Tom Hodson. I saw Tom from a kid all the way up to LSU. So he reminds me of him. Tall, thin, real accurate throwing the football. They both need a year to develop. And I think that With Lowell, it's more of read, recognize, coveraging downfield. With Miles, it's physically getting stronger as an athlete himself, and he'll be a lot better player. And that's going to be one heck of a string off when those two guys go out against one another for that starting spot.
Let's head to the phone lines. 866-3200. Mike Detillier is our guest. Greg is in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. I just got I guess a question or opinion, and I just want to hear y'all thoughts on it. And it's directed toward Mike Detillier. I want to hear his opinion on what happens if the Saints does blow up and, we go 7-9. Does Drew Brees resign? Does Sean Payton just throw in the towel? My opinion is I think Drew Brees tries to find another team that's, he wants to win another Super Bowl. And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Greg.
Based off of what they have done with the Pelicans, it wouldn't surprise me to give Sean another year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, why not? Stability.
They used it this year.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Now, here's the thing of how you get to 8-8 or 7-9. If you start off real bad and then you get hot late, then you've got your way to maneuver that. But there's been no coach in NFL history that has won a Super Bowl, then had 3 straight 7-9 years and turned the team around. Tell me another guy that's done it. It's never happened in sports. So Sean would be walking on ground no one else has been able to walk on at this particular stage. But I think the NFC South is razor close with Drew. I think if Sean stays, Drew stays.
Right.
I think if Sean goes, Drew's out of here.
See, Mike, the difference with that could be is when you look at the draft class and you look at the young players on the Saints team and the potential of maybe getting better with a little seasoning if you don't have a winning season or a playoff season this year, and that stability word, to use that to be able to bring back
I
this
accept
thing.
that more with the Saints than I do with the Pelicans.
That was going to be on point. I don't accept that with the Pelicans. I don't accept what they're saying stability when you look at all the holes in this roster and the lack of now money under the cap to go out there and fill some needs. And a lot of that goes back to the general manager. So I think it's two different situations in a lot of cases. And I could see maybe next year them giving Peyton one more year because of the potential of this team going forward.
The other thing, too, is the outcry from fans saying, you mean to tell me this is 4 straight years?
Yeah, well, you're right.
And again, people hear it. People here, I think they like basketball, don't love it.
They don't love it. They love a winning basketball team.
And they love a star. Mm-hmm. They love the Jazz even when they lost because they had Pete.
That's right.
They had Pete.
Right. But even now it's less about the star and more about the winning. Before it was the star.
But this is the love affair with winning at football. Les Miles, look what he did at LSU.
Oh, yeah.
How long did that, at the end, look how many people were after him. And so you understand that it's all about the love here of football, which we can talk about 52 weeks out the year, 365,
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Basketball, you talk about basketball in your radio show.
Right.
What you get most of the time? Crickets.
Crickets. No, really.
No, I know it.
It's the truth. A lot of people don't want to talk basketball.
Or don't want to hear it,
No.
but it's accurate.
You bring up Saints, and of course, everybody's tuned in.
Yeah.
Speaking of basketball, Brian's in Metter. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
How you doing, guys?
Doing great, Brian.
First off, I know I'm just a fan, and I'm tired of hearing that. I'm just a fan. It's a business. So I know that I'm a fan, and it's just a business. But I can tell you as a fan perspective, I will not go to another Pelicans ball game. I won't even drive past the Smoothie King Center on the night a game is there. I think Demps and Gentry should be gone. I think they should have been gone last year. I don't think Gentry should have been hired. I'm tired. They don't get a pass. I got several friends of mine. We go to games that night. Mm-hmm. None of us are going. I think we need to boycott them and show them that the fans do count. And the Saints, as far as I'm concerned, playoffs or bust. Get rid of everybody. Listen what you got.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian, I think what you bring up, also to economy. Mm-hmm. Where I live at, in the southern part of the state, where the oil field has really really in bad shape. You've had a lot of people who have spent a lot of money on tickets that have told me privately, I'm not doing it. You know, he said, I keep reading about Boogie Mania, but it ain't boogieing out of my pocket. And a lot of them have made that decision. They won't do it. And it's a personal choice.
Sure,
if you want to go to games or not go to games. I think, you know, and I think people will pick and choose games too of who they're playing. Sure. And I want to go see a certain player on another team and how they match up against Boogie and Anthony Davis. So, but I see a lot of people with money in my part of the country that have said, you know what, I've had to tighten up. And part of that tightening up is I'm not buying as many or the same amount that I've bought in years past.
They got to start fast, Mike. They got to start fast.
They don't start fast, it's over.
No, I agree. To Kenner and Ed. Ed, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Ed.
Thank you for taking my call. Hey, Mike, you don't think it would have been better to take Malcolm Butler, for a 32nd pick? And, and not Lattimore, who would have been, injured, or possibly injured. I'm not trying to knock the guy. But you already know what Malcolm Butler could do. And here's a person who could walk in, who you know what he's got, and who can benefit this team right off the bat than having to teach somebody. And if that's the case, do you think they have a shot of bringing him back?
Thanks for the call, Ed.
Thank you, Ed. I think that door is still open. And don't be surprised this football team try to go right back. Now, they didn't want to give up a number one pick. And my thing about it is, what you could throw out there is, last year, Jamie Collins asked for $15, $16 million a year from the Patriots. Belichick, no, we can't pay that. Now, instead of just trading him, he buried him.
Right.
Now, he got paid.
Right.
But he kind of buried him. You went from worst to first, or first to worst real quickly on that particular deal. Bill has a track record of doing that with certain players. And I wouldn't be surprised the Saints try to retouch that Malcolm Butler issue. You didn't bring him in. You didn't kind of come to a verbal agreement on a contract.
All that time.
And you didn't know what it would cost you.
Right.
Come on. That doesn't fly with me at that particular point. I think there's still that window of opportunity to get Malcolm Butler in. And when you do, then you would have him long term. Because I think he signs the long term contract after that particular part. And don't rule that out. I still think that's a distinct possibility.
I agree with you. Toby is in Gretna. Hey, Toby, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Hopefully in the near future you can do a whole hour on the medical staff. And one other thing, I don't think really that Sean Payton was going to take Mahomes. I'd like to give you a comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mahomes.
I think that if Lattimore is not there, I have no doubt he would have taken Patrick Mahomes. It would have sounded something that Sean would have done. Right. Now, what it would have told you is two things. Drew Brees won't be here in 2018, and Sean will.
Right.
Because nothing pumps life into an organization more than a young quarterback who's got potential or talent. So I think it would have told you a couple things at that moment in time. The medical staff, that's something the organization got to take a real strong look at this point. The numbers tell you this team has had an inordinate amount of injuries.
Both
of them.
Yes.
And so you've got to take a look at that and say, what can we do to make it best? You can always say, I want to win. Every owner wants to win. Every GM wants to win. Is it priority?
No doubt. See if we can squeeze one more in. Tom is in New Orleans. Tom, you're our last caller. Welcome to the show.
Good show, guys. Just real quick, what does Nolan see in Stephon Anthony that he hasn't shown the rest of us in all these years? I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks.
Well, I think Mike's not going to say anything bad about Stephon at this stage. I mean, they've only worked him a little bit athletically. He will look great in practice. Yes. But again, it's the mental part of the game. That going through that mental work and in the classroom, in the film room, that's something Stephon's got to get better at. Do I think he can be a pretty good NFL player? Yes, I do. But it's not, Mike Nolan's not going to be the guy to turn the key here. The guy to turn the key is Stephon Anthony.
Mike, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also, you can catch us on Pelican Sports Television on Fridays at 9 o'clock. And we're now on Cox 130. It's 10 o'clock on Thursdays, 2 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO. That is 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. That's weekdays. You can catch it on the TuneIn Radio app. Great download for your smartphone or tablet. Catch us on ericasher.com as well, where you can see all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports. Also, as always, want to thank Mike Detillier for joining us, as well as the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juneau, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Eric Asher. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.